What's going on, guys? John Elder here from Kivy.com, and in this video, we're going to learn more about our Swiper app with Kivy and Python. Alright guys, like I said, in this video, we're going to dig a little bit deeper into the Swiper app from our last video. But before we get started, if you like this video and want to see more like it, be sure to smash the like button below, subscribe to the channel, give me a thumbs up for the YouTube algorithm, and check out Kivy.com where I have dozens of courses with hundreds of videos that teach you to code. Use coupon code YouTube1 to get $30 off membership. It's all my courses, videos, and books for one-time fee at just $49, which is insanely cheap. Okay, in the last video, we created this little Swiper app that we can swipe around with. I got a lot of questions from a lot of people, so in this video, we're going to dive a little bit deeper into it, and we're going to learn how to do some stuff programmatically with this. So in the last video, we just set it up to swipe. In this video, we want to set it up to actually use buttons that go forward and back. And then also, like when we actually swipe left or right, we want to run other functions maybe based on whether we swiped left or right. And we can do that programmatically. So we're going to look at all that stuff in this video. So head back over to our code here. I'm using the Sublime Text Editor and the Git Bash terminal as always. And as always, you can find a link to the code in the pinned comment section below, as well as the link to the Kivy playlist with, I don't know, almost 50 other Kivy videos so far in this series. So check that out if you haven't so far. So in the last video, we created these two files, swiper.py and swiper.kv. And I've got those two files up here. I've renamed them swiper2.kv and swiper2.py just to sort of differentiate between the two. So let's come down here to our swiper2.kv file and let's create a couple of quick buttons. Now, these are not going to look pretty. I'm just going to slap them down at the bottom. I'll let you make them look nicer and position them better and whatever. We just need some buttons to play around with. So I'm going to create a box layout right here, and I'm going to set the orientation to like horizontal and make sure this is lined up. We want this to be outside here. So, okay, that looks good. So then inside of here, let's create a couple of buttons. Let's go MD raised button. And I want two of these. So let's just pop two of them in here. And inside of here, let's put the text for the first one to say previous. And let's have the text for the second one to say next. So we want these buttons to move the pictures forward and backwards based on this. Now, in order to do this, we're going to use on_release. We've used this with buttons in the past, no big deal. But we need to do something. We need to move our swiper picture around. So we actually have to name our swiper, and we didn't do that in the last video because we didn't need to. So let's come up here to our MDSwiper and let's give this guy an ID of swiper. Anytime we want to do something to a widget, we have to give it an ID so that we can reference that widget, right? So we can do that like that. So that looks good. So let's come back down here. And so what do we want to do? We want to change the current position of our swiper. And this thing is numbered, right? It's sort of like a Python list. And each picture is a number. And we can say, hey, set the current one to number 4 or number 3 or whatever based on which button we're pressing. So to do that, let's just go swiper.set_current. And now we can set the current one that's currently showing, right, as whatever we want. Well, what do we want to set it to? Well, we want to set it to swiper.get_current_index. So swiper.getCurrentIndex will do what it sounds like. It'll get the current index, the current one that's showing, right? Well, we don't want the current one that's showing. We want the previous one. So we'll just go -1, right? So, all right, that looks good here. And let's just come down here and paste the same thing in here. But for the next one, we want to add one. We want to get whatever the current one is and then add one. That will push the next picture through. So let's go ahead and save this. This is going to throw up an error in a couple of ways here, and I'll show you why in just a second. But strictly speaking, this will work. So let's come back here. We're in our c/kivymd directory. We've got our virtual environment turned on, and let's run Python swiper2.py. And when we do, we get our image here. And when we click next, it goes to the next one. And now when we click previous, it goes to the previous one. But when we get to the end and hit next the next time, the whole thing dies on us. And it says the list index is out of range, because what we're doing here is we're saying, hey, get the current index and then add one to it. Well, we don't have a 6th picture, right? So it can't go to the 6th picture because it doesn't have one. We're saying, hey, the index is out of range. So we need to do a little bit of error handling here in order to make sure that doesn't happen. So what we need to do is find out how many pictures there are, how many index numbers there are. And it's a Python list, so we can run the len function to get the length of the list, right? So in our case, there's 5 images, so it'll be 5. But we don't know that, so we just need to do it programmatically. So we can do that by, let me just type this in here. We can find the length of our swiper dot get underscore items. So get items will return a list of all of the objects in our swiper. And the objects in our swiper are these images. So there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 images, right? So what we could do is, let me just comment this out and let's just print this out to see what it's returning. All right, I'll comment this out as well. So let's go on underscore release and let's just print whatever this is. So let's go ahead and save this. And this is the next one. So if we run this again, so if we run this and we click next, nothing happens. But if we now close this, you can see it's printing out that thing. And you can see it's just a Python list, right, with objects in it. And if we went through and counted each of these with the commas, there would be 5 of them because there's 5 images, 5 objects. So since this is a Python list, we can run the len function in order to see how many items are in the list, right? So it'll tell us 5. So let's come back here and instead of printing this out, which we don't want to do, let's instead use this. So this will tell us, for instance, 5. So now we can do a little logic in here, right? We can say if swiper, let me just get rid of all of this and let's just write this from scratch. Let's go if swiper dot get underscore current underscore index. If the current index is less than the length of our swiper dot get underscore items that we just looked at, -1, we always have to do that when we're getting lengths of Python lists because lists start at 0, right? So -1. So if the current index is less than the number of items we have, right, then we want to do something. Well, what do we want to do? Well, we want to do that thing we just did earlier. We want to add one to the current position, right? So that was just swiper dot set underscore current. And we want to set that to whatever the swiper dot get underscore current underscore index is. And then we want to add 1 to it because we want it to go to the next one, right? So let's go ahead and save this and run it, see if that worked. That was a little convoluted. Hopefully that made sense. So now we can come up here and we can go, list and int. Oh, we got an error somewhere. Oh, I misspelled swiper, spider. All right, swiper. Oh, still misspelled, swiper. There we go, swiper. All right, let's go ahead and save this. Let's run this guy again. Okay, so now next, still the same problem. All right, what else did I do wrong here? So, so if swiper.get current index is less than the length of swiper.get underscore items, there we go. There we go. We got a parenthesis in the wrong spot. Okay, so now that should work. Okay, it's Monday morning. It's a holiday. Cut me some slack. All right, so now we can go next. Now this is the last one. We click it again. The program doesn't crash anymore. But now if we go previous, it does go wonky and crash. So we need to do the same thing again up here. So let's just get rid of all of this. The logic is going to be slightly different because, you know, we're minusing here. But here we can go if swiper, I cannot spell swiper this morning. If swiper.get underscore current underscore index. Now, if this one is greater than, let's just say 0, right? Because when it gets to the end, if it's greater than 0, we want to go back to 0 because it starts at 0, right? So if it's then 0, it's no longer greater than 0, and this won't run anymore, and it won't allow us to go back again, right? So it'll just stop on its own. So if it's greater than 0, we want to go swiper.set underscore current. And we want to set that to the swiper.get get underscore current underscore index -1, all right? Because we want to go backwards. So let's go ahead and save this, run it, make sure that worked. We can pull this over. We can go next, previous. Yep, it doesn't go again. Keep clicking it, and it doesn't go back. So, okay, that seems to work. And just that easy. A little convoluted. And okay, this is a little weird that we did all of this logic right here, but there's not much to it. Normally I wouldn't, but there's not a whole lot to it, so I just did it here. You could also, instead of doing this on release and doing all this logic here, you could just call a custom function that you create in the swiper.py file. Then you could write all of this code, all of this stuff in the Python file itself. You could do that. You know, you would just have to, instead of calling swiper.getCurrentIndex, you would have to go, you know, self.root.ids.swiper.getCurrentIndex in the way that we always do when we deal with IDs on the Python file, right? So makes sense? So, okay, almost done. Really quickly, I also want to show you how to call custom functions whenever you actually swipe left or right. So let's come up here to our MDSwiper, and inside of here, we can add some more things. I'm just going to paste these in here. So you have these options with the swiper. You can call on swipe. So like down here, we're calling on release. Same thing up here, you could call on swipe, or on pre-swipe, on overswipe right, on overswipe left, on swipe left, and on swipe right. And I'm gonna leave these blank. You can fiddle around with them yourself. But when we swipe left, let's call a function called on swipe left. And when we swipe right, let's call a function called on swipe right. So we can create these. So let's head back over here to our Python file. And inside of here, let's define on swipe left. And we want to pass in self. And let's also create on swipe right. So here we swipe left, obviously. And here we swipe right. So what do we want to happen whenever we swipe left or right? Well, we could just print something out like you swiped left, right? And we could also come down here and do the same thing. You swiped right. So if we run this and bring this over here, we go right, 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 left, left. It should print out. You swipe right, 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 left, left. So that's how that works. Now, if you wanted to get a little bit, I don't know, cuter with it or something, let's come up here. We have this toolbar. We can do that instead. So let's say self.root.ids.toolbar.title and set that equal to, I don't know, you swiped left, right? And let's comment this out. We can do the same thing down here, but instead, let's say you swiped right. And we need some exclamation points there. Oh yeah, I don't know. All right, so if we save this, head back over here, run this guy again. We can see now when we swipe right, boom, it says you swiped right. When we swipe left, it says you swiped left. Now notice this, when we swipe right, it says you swiped right. When we swipe left, it says you swiped left. Now if I click next, we're going right, but it's not changing up here. Same thing here, right? It's only when you actually swipe and drag, right? So sort of make note of that. So that's how you can do things programmatically whenever the picture moves. So again, you're looking at, let's pull this back up. You could do on swipe to where it goes in either direction. You can then call a function here. On pre-swipe, I'm not really sure what that is. Maybe when you just touch it and you don't actually swipe it, probably. On overswipe, I don't know what an overswipe is. You can play around with that. And this is swipe left and swipe right. So that's how you can do things programmatically based on the swipe. That's how you can do things programmatically based on the current index or the get current index, set current index, and also how to find out like how many items are in your list, get items. So that's how you do all that stuff. Hopefully that answers a lot of the questions that people had about how to do stuff programmatically with the swiper, and a lot of fun. So that's all for this video. If you liked it, be sure to smash the like button below, subscribe to that channel, give me a thumbs up for the YouTube algorithm, and check out codemy.com where you can use coupon code YouTube1 to get $30 off membership. So you pay just $49 to access all my courses, over 47 courses, hundreds of videos, and the PDFs of all my best-selling coding books. Join over 150,000 students learning to code just like you. My name is John Elder from Codemy.com, and I'll see you in the next video.